class 10. So we have started with chapter 8 current electricity. In the previous video lesson we have done about the concepts of charge, then electric current, potential difference, everything. Okay. Now when it's similar, I know you can find some resemblance because we have already done this type of things in class 9. So again it's just a recap because you have this in this class also. An atom has positive ions as well as electrons, right? Now what about the metals? What is a speciality of the metals which makes them good conductors? The presence of free electrons. In chemistry, I think you have learned the outermost orbit electrons in the metals, they are very loosely bound and they can easily be knocked out from the metals and they can roam about freely. So this is a condition, say, where the positive ions are fixed in their positions but the electrons, they can roam about freely. These are the free electrons, okay? Now in the outermost orbit, now this is a, say, a conductor, metal wire, okay? Now if I join the two ends of this conductor, what is this? A cell. What is this called? Positive terminal of the cell, negative terminal of the cell. Where will the electrons flow from? Positive to negative or negative to positive? From negative terminal to the positive terminal. See, now the electrons, as soon as you connect this, you will find the electrons start moving in a fixed direction. Okay? What is a conventional flow of current? Flow of current, positive to negative, because it's the opposite in direction to the flow of electrons. Okay. So that means in this case there was no potential difference between the two ends. So there was no compulsion or nothing which will initiate the flow of electrons. We need something which will initiate this flow of electrons. As soon as we connected the terminals of the cell with these two ends of the conductor, we found that the electrons start moving in a fixed direction. Now, the moving electrons constitute electricity, we know. But while the electrons are moving, won't they collide with the other positive ions and the other electrons also? That means while they are flowing, they will face a lot of obstruction to the flow. That obstruction to the flow of electrons in a conductor is nothing but the resistance. Okay. How can we get the mathematical form of resistance? From which law? You have got a brief concept about this in class 9. I have given you this concept. Ohm's law. This scientist, he did an experiment and he found that if you have two ends of a conductor, difference in potential between the two ends of a conductor is V. V is the difference in potential between the two ends of a conductor. That means potential difference is V. Current flowing between the two ends is I. Then he found that this current flowing between the two ends of a conductor where potential difference V is applied, then I is directly proportional to V. More is the potential difference, more will the current flow, provided temperature and other physical conditions remaining constant. Why? Why is the temperature is, he did this experiment and he found the result. provided the temperature remaining constant. Why? Tell you. First see, if this is so, can I write V by I equal to constant? If I proportional to V, V is also proportional to I, so V by I equal to constant. This constant is nothing but capital R, resistance. V by I equal to R. What is the law? Ohm's law. I'll show you in the when the school reopens. I'll show you. I'll take an Ohm's law apparatus in the class, and I'll show you how you continue changing V. Automatically, you will find I changes, and every time you divide V by I, you get the same result. You get the same constant, that is, resistance remains same, provided temperature is constant. So, how can I define the resistance then? Resistance of a conductor is defined as the ratio of the potential difference applied across the two ends of a conductor to the current flowing between the two ends. What can be the SI unit of resistance? Volt per ampere. This is known as ohm. In short, we write it like this. So, how can I define 1 ohm? 1 ohm resistance is defined as the resistance between two ends of a conductor when the potential difference between two ends of the conductor is 1 volt. That is, when the two ends of a 1 volt potential difference is maintained across the two ends of a conductor and 1 ampere current flows through it, then the resistance offered to the flow of electrons is 1 ohm. Okay? So, can you then tell me what will be the graph like if I plot V if I plot I and if I plot V in y-axis, the graph will look like this. Directly proportional to straight line like this. Okay? How then tell me, how will I get the resistance from this graph? If you can answer this on your own, then see, if I just drop, first of all, from a graph from the slope of a straight line, can I get from the slope of the straight line of this graph resistance? Why? R is equal to V by I. So what is the slope of the graph? You take any 2 points, drop a perpendicular, you measure this. How much is this? How much is this? This is this minus this. Delta V. And how much is this? This minus this. So this is delta I. So delta V by delta I is the slope of the graph. That gives us the resistance. So I can find the resistance from the slope of V versus I graph. V versus I graph, from the V versus I graph slope, we can get resistance. Now, then can you tell me what will be if I plot I here and if I plot V here, and say if I just find the slope like this is delta I and this is delta V. Then now this I have plotted in y-axis and V in x-axis. So slope is now delta I by delta V. This is I versus V. Delta I by delta V, what is this? Isn't it reciprocal of resistance? See? We call this conductance. Reciprocal of resistance, conductance. So then tell me, if R has a unit, SI unit ohm, or like this, then won't it have ohm inverse conductance, or like this? Okay. Now, actually when I'll show you this experiment in the class, you will notice that you actually, if you notice from the experiment, you will find each time you you will have milliammeter. How do you measure the current in a circuit, electrical circuit, with the help of ammeter? And what about potential difference? Voltmeter. I have mentioned this in 9. Now in the Ohm's law apparatus, sometimes you have milliammeter. Milliammeter is nothing but to note the smaller range of values of the current. Okay, you have milliammeter, you may have millivoltmeter like this. So you will notice V by I, every time you see the readings, you will find V by I always comes as, say, 10 ohm. So every time you get V, you get I, you calculate from the experiment, you find V by I as 10 only. And also if you draw the graph with a set of values of V and I, you find that there also you get resistance from the graph as 10. Okay. So, okay. Now this graph or this Ohm's law is followed by almost all conductors. But, so those conductors which follow this Ohm's law, that means this graph, as well as if they follow Ohm's law, obviously they will follow this graph. They are known as the ohmic conductors. What are they known as? Ohmic conductors. But there are certain conductors which do not follow Ohm's law. That means for them, this graph is a bit different. This is not linear. Instead, the graph for them is if this is the graph for ohmic conductors, you find a non-linear graph for non-ohmic conductors. Non-ohmic means they do not follow Ohm's law. In the higher classes, you will learn about diodes. You have diodes and transistors. Those do not follow Ohm's law. That means for them, if suppose this is a Ohm's law graph, that means even if you calculate slopes, if someone among you calculate the slope like this, you will get same resistance, delta V by delta I. Again, if someone calculate here, you will get the same resistance. Anywhere along this line, if you want to find the slope, same resistance you will get. But here, that won't be the case. In this case, non-ohmic conductors, we find the slope by drawing a tangent, and at this point, we draw the slope. That means in this point, whatever the slope is, it will change if I draw a tangent at this point and draw a slope. Changes. Okay, so this is the difference between ohmic and non-ohmic conductors. Obviously, this is not a straight line, it's a curved line. So obviously at each point, the slope will change. And how will you find the slope at each point? By drawing a tangent at that point and then draw a slope. So this is the case for non-ohmic conductors. Okay. Now, conductance we have done, resistance we have done, Ohm's law we have done. Now next is, okay, now next come to the factors affecting resistance of a conductor. First of all, material. Obviously, that's why we differentiate conductors and insulators. Otherwise, what will be the difference between conductor and insulator? If all the materials have the same capacity of allowing electrons to flow through them, metals have more free electrons. So, they can conduct the maximum, they can conduct the flow of, that is, they can conduct the electrons flow through them. So, that means for metals, that is why the resistance is very low, very less. So more is it depends on the material of the substance, right? If a material has a very low resistance, that means it will not allow current to flow through them easily. Temperature. Do you remember this point I have mentioned in Ohm's law? That I is directly proportional to V, provided if temperature is constant. That is because if temperature rises, then what will happen? The electrons will gain more kinetic energy now, so they will start moving more vigorously. That means they will start colliding with each other more, collisions will increase. As a result, resistance will also increase, because resistance is offered due to the collisions with the other positive ions and electrons, right? So if collisions increase, that means resistance is also increasing. So with the increase in temperature, resistance does not remain constant, it increases. Okay? So that is why I proportional to V, or V by I equal to R as constant, this will not remain valid, because if temperature changes, R will change, then V by I will not remain constant. Then you will see that the graph or from the experiment you are not getting the proper values, or you are not getting what is desired. Okay? Length of a conductor. If the electrons has to overcome a larger, that means a larger length, so it has to cover a long length of a conductor, that means it will have to overcome more collisions in its way. It will have to face more resistance as it will cover the length of the conductor. So, resistance is directly proportional to the length of the conductor. Now, what about the area of cross section? If area of cross section increases, suppose if this is the conductor, this is the area of cross section. The area of cross section. Okay? That means area of cross section. So if area of cross section increases, that means it will face now less collisions. It can find its way much comparatively easier without facing much obstruction. Now it can flow the electrons. So area of cross section are inversely proportional to the area of cross section. R is inversely proportional to the area of cross section. A. L is the length, A is the area of cross section. That means if I double the length of a conductor, resistance will be doubled. I double the area of cross section, resistance will be halved. Okay? Now, including these two, we have got a physical quantity. Let's see what is that. R is directly proportional to L. R is inversely proportional to area of cross section. So can I write R? You know how to write this? Combining these two. So R equal to some constant into L by A. This is some constant. When we want to remove the proportionality sign, we need a constant, right? The constant is denoted by rho. What is this constant called? This constant is nothing but specific resistance. Or resistivity. Specific resistance or resistivity. That means rho equal to R into A by L. Okay? So can I write we can therefore define the specific resistance as the resistance offered by a conductor per unit length per unit area of cross section. Say of a material. Define specific resistance of a material. Specific resistance of a material is defined as the resistance offered by the material per unit area of cross section per unit length. That means it is actually the characteristic of the material. Specific resistance is low. That means it's a good conductor, right? Specific resistance is very high. It's a bad conductor. What can be the unit of specific resistance? SI unit, ohm, meter square by meter, area, SI unit meter square, length, SI unit meter, resistance, ohm. So ultimately you get ohm meter. Okay? Ohm meter. We have 1 by rho, that is 1 by specific resistance. Reciprocal of specific resistance or resistivity is known as conductivity. Sigma. This symbol is known as sigma. This is equal to, therefore, what will it be? Just the reciprocal of specific resistance or resistivity. That means L R A. So what will it be? Just check. It will come as ohm inverse, meter inverse. Obviously, if it is reciprocal of specific resistance and specific resistance as unit ohm meter, then it will have ohm inverse, meter inverse. It's a reciprocal. You can check from here also. Meter by ohm, meter square. So meter and 1 meter gets cancelled. You're left with ohm inverse, meter inverse. Okay? Now, for conductors, this specific resistance for conductors, this specific resistance is very low. Now, you have a term in the book as semiconductors. Exact, you just have the brief idea about semiconductor as, obviously their conductivity level is between conductor and insulator. Okay? You don't have to learn much details about semiconductor. You don't have. You just tell me, if this you have very low, this you will have low specific resistance because it's semiconductor. What about insulator?